to say, artificial intelligence isn't replacing humans. It is enhancing human potential. And so, in this presentation, we'll be discovering how AI and robotics can fast-track Nigeria's socio-economic growth. Ladies and gentlemen, please can we put our hands together as we make welcome Dr. Olusola Ayoola, the founder, Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Nigeria. Please let's celebrate him, put our hands together for him. He will be speaking on leveraging emerging technologies to accelerate Nigeria's socio-economic development and public sector digital transformation. Thank you for joining us.
The chairman of today's occasion, Professor Tunji Olaokpa, the Director General of the BPSR, Dr. D.I. Arabi, permit me to stand on all existing protocols. It's my own pleasure to be here in front of you today. First of all, to see your energetic and, amazing faces, and also to see Nigerians who are very determined to see that not only do we redefine possibilities, we actually achieve them. And I know we've all traveled from far and wide, but that's to say that there is hope for this country. Can I have my slides, please? Okay. Now, for us as Nigerians, we have seen so much, from hardship to gradual ease, and we need a better life. But it's easy for us to forget that even beyond this room, there are some people who don't have basic access to some of the things we call the good life. And in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, he says, a nation's greatness is defined by how it treats the weakest of its citizens. And that's to tell us that whenever we gather like this, we must be talking about the inclusivity and how whatever we are building or whatever policy we are reforming caters to those who don't have the opportunity to be heard. And that's why I would always say that technology will never impress me until it affects positively the life of that elderly man or woman in the remote area that does not even know about government. Next slide. For some people, it is a lot of work getting anything from the government. Even at a time, for example, in the life of a widow in Nigeria who has lost her husband and is trying to get emoluments, the amount of paperwork that needs to be done is daunting. And to some people, it's almost as if the government does not feel the situation that they are in. But then on the part of the government, we have to deal with paperwork because of eradicating, fraudulent activities, as people would try to, take advantage of any very porous system. Next slide. But juxtaposing that fear of being abused, when it comes to systems being abused, and the words of the former Prime Minister of Estonia, who says that the 21st century government is to provide the citizens with the most precious resource, which is time, to actually live their lives the best that they can, rather than spend it filling forms from government or waiting on queues to be attended to at the hospitals. He said, government must not overburden our lives with regulations. We must find how to deliver governmental services in the most efficient ways. And for him, his country is a small country with limited resources. They would rather have their citizens out there making money than filling forms and attending to every regulation that has to be filled on paper. And that is what sparked the revolution, the digital revolution in that country, such that to the extent that today, it takes only 3 minutes to file your tax returns, and so on. Now, if we must bring this kind of revolution to Nigeria, the question is, what can we deploy to make that happen? It's technology. Next slide. And that is why we are gathered here today. Because the common man and woman out there are just asking for food. They're asking for jobs. They're asking for education. And I'm talking of quality and affordable education. They're asking for justice and freedom. They're asking for access to the internet, which has become a basic right today. They're asking for drinkable water. And they're just asking for life. And the answer to each and every question that they're asking for is technology. How are we applying technology? How are we ensuring that the technology is being used for good and not against them? So the brain behind the theme of this particular conference is a very, very impressive and one that we must admire, because this topic has come at the right time when the Nigerian government is galvanizing every sector, every aspect of our economy to bring forward steady and progressive growth in the economy. Next slide. So let us see what exactly socio-economic development means to every one of us. Next slide. For some people, it is job creation. Is government aware that they are jobless? Or is government aware of the jobs that they have? I was somewhere yesterday in Lagos speaking, and one of the panelists said, in Nigeria, you are your own local government chairman because you produce your water, you produce everything. But then that's not supposed to be enough. As long as government is not aware, that is when it becomes a problem. If I produce my energy and government is aware, government has a way to refund or make some sort of reward for people who are off-grid and are surviving. And this, I think, is the question. Is government aware of the jobs that some of us are doing? Is government aware of the quality of education in the remote areas? Is government aware of the healthcare facility infrastructure in some other areas? It's not all about is government providing it. Is government even aware? And like I always say, whenever there is a lacuna in places where there is supposed to be government presence, but government is not aware, it gives room for bandits and terrorists to create their own government. So we're not asking for government to be everywhere, we're just asking for government to be aware of everywhere. And again, this is the answer that technology brings. Next slide. When it comes to solving our problems through technology, the government is not the only sector that is responsible. We have, along with the public sector, we have the private sector, which of course, if you are being honest, can also be a very big force for change. And we also have civil societies and developmental partners. But then the critical question is, how can the public sector coordinate the development of all of these other sectors without digital tools? The answer is it cannot. So the question about digital transformation in public sectors is non-negotiable. We have to get it. Next slide. So let us draw a parallel between a system that is non-digitized and one that is digitized, so that we can agree on whether we are fully digitized or whether we are migrating to that point of being digitalized. Paperworks. Number one is the manual effort, the paper-based processes that some offices still do today. And while we understand that a digitalized system will be automated with digital workflow, we know that the process of transiting from a non-digital system to a digital system would require the two systems running in parallel. So that means that even if your agency, your MDA, is still paper-based, are you juxtaposing that with some other form of paperless system so that you can measure the efficacy and measure the growth rates and the acceptability? If we are non-digitalized, what people would do would take days and weeks, whereas it could have taken minutes to hours. Talk about applying for a job and getting a response, for example. Talk about filling an examination, sitting for an examination and not seeing your results immediately, and so many other things. There's also the high risk of document loss. We are, again, I think we are getting into the Harmattan season now, and we know that for some people, that's always a crisis when they have fire outbreaks and so on. And data could get lost. Can we digitalize our system right away? I mean, people have approached me, particularly hospitals, wanting to digitalize, and even banks, wanting to digitalize their existing records. And there are bottlenecks to it because some papers are handwritten, so there's a lot of AI required to convert handwritten to text before saving it in a repository. But then that work is being done and being supported by international partners as well. And so on. But the critical one I want to draw your attention to is the idea of silos. When you are not digitalized, even when people fill their data on your computer, as long as there is no data exchange from one agency to another, it is still as simple as manual. Because for agencies that continue to say we have our data, but then one branch or one office cannot share it with another office, it's as good as not there. And one good example would be in the universities, where every lecturer will tell you, they have your results on their system. But then you go to the records office and they will tell you, go and tell the department to send your results. And so therefore, it means that we have to still ensure thorough digitalization in its full effect. Let's look at a real case, birth registration. In the case of birth registration, there's traditional registration where you have to visit the office, you have to fill the form, you have to wait for weeks to get the certificate, and so on. And people might end up telling you, oh, my documents have been lost. I think we should get past this. The age of losing birth records, university certificates, and so on should no longer hold in this era that we are entering into now, where you should even be able to check your result, and that is happening at some levels. I must appreciate the government for that. At least now, the young ones already are digital natives. They know that they can sit for JAMB and check their results online, WAEC as well, and so many others. But we need that to cut across every sector. It will help to improve accuracy. It will help to reduce cost and also reduce time wastage. But I want to also draw the attention of the media to the idea of accuracy. When you digitalize a system, it might make you think, inaccuracies have been detected. You are only able to detect it because it is now digitalized and it's now in front of all of us. A system that is not digitalized may be inaccurate and there will be no means of measuring. So the very first approach to digitalizing is to run it and then improve the accuracy, not to abandon it because you detected either irregularities or inaccuracies. And that's to say that even at JAMB level, with the impact of glitches, it is not to say digital systems have failed. It's rather giving us insight into what we may have overlooked when applying it analogly, in an analog manner. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. So I will skip this particular slide because I've explained it already. So many records are being collected, yes. Now, why must we digitalize our public sector? Number one is data-driven decisions. And please permit me to break this one down as a very simple citizen of this country. When you travel to London, Manchester, these are two places I've been to. Sorry, I can't mention too many other countries or states. You will notice that on your Google map, if the bus that was meant to stop in front of you is delayed by 3 minutes, Google Map will tell you the answer, that yes, it's delayed by 3 minutes. Why? Because there is Transport for London, an agency that has an open API service that Google Map subscribes to. So whenever there is an update, they know, because they have GPS trackers on all their transport buses. And that GPS tracker updates their server, so Google can connect to their server and ask questions and get the latest updates about traffic and quickly reroute passengers or people on the road. Same thing with Manchester and many other developed countries. However, when I was doing my research, I discovered that even in Lagos, the buses had GPS trackers. So that means that the Lamata in Lagos is aware of the location of the buses, the speed, and the traffic situation. We just need, again, data exchange to connect that with a service like Google that can get it across to the entire masses. Data-driven decisions are important to help us maximize whatever we are doing, whether it's in e-commerce, whether it is in education, healthcare, and even government projects. I, had a discussion with some of my researchers, and I said to them, build a solution that allows taxis to not just have GPS trackers, but to have gyroscope sensors. Gyroscopes can tell you when it's shaking, when something is going up and down or swinging right and left. And I said, let this be on every taxi on the road, such that you may not even have, we don't even need to talk about IoT for now, where it's internet enabled. Let it be offline. Let them travel from Lagos to Ibadan, or to Abuja, or to Calabar. Along the road, the sensor will detect when the car gallops. And with the GPS location and the gallop nature, we can later feed back that data to, if it is NURTW or whatever agency, union is working with them. So government can have that data that says, these are where potholes are mostly significant, and this is where we need to develop. Because there was a time the Ministry of Works got to see about one terrible situation of the road when it went viral on social media. It doesn't have to get viral if there are trackers on every vehicle for easy data-driven decisions. Then, of course, there is the aspect of removing limitation when everything is digitalized and so on. I'm trying to watch time. Next slide. So when we think about data-driven decisions, we must agree that even when all the data starts coming to one server and being shared across board to those who require the data, you can't make sense out of every single data because you are not going to sit down with all the charts. We need systems that can read the data and tell us what the situation or what the data is actually implying. This is where artificial intelligence comes in. Artificial intelligence is basically you making a computer system be able to do what we humans with our brains can do when it comes to detecting patterns, understanding the situation, and taking decisions. Sometimes, if it's a very simple problem, I expect the car to be moving straight. I don't expect to see any gallop. Once the gyroscope data gives me a sense of a gallop, I know there is a pothole there. That could be a pothole, that could be a bump. But the manner the gallop, the manner the shape of that appears will tell us. We human beings can do it. Can I write a computer code that allows it to do the same? If yes, that is AI already. AI doesn't have to be complicated. It's just applying something that can help a human being when he is not looking at the data. But mind you, there are two types of AI. The predictive AI and the generative AI. I don't want to go too deep into the discussion about what is predictive and generative, but I want to just tell you that many times when you hear AI, you think of ChatGPT. That is generative AI. AI that can generate content. AI that can generate texts, video, audio. And that is the AI we use a lot. But the AI that makes people win competitions is the predictive AI. That is an AI that can detect hidden information and take action ahead of time. And there are so many categories, so many types of models under predictive AI that allow people who are into finance to know where to invest because they can already see the trend, whether it's going to go up or down. It helps people who are into stock trading to know which ones to buy, when to sell. It helps Netflix and YouTube to know which videos to push to you that will keep your attention on their platform, and so on and so forth. And predictive AI is usually not spoken about because it's usually a secret for every organization that's applying it. And there are many areas to apply predictive AI. One of them is in the aspect of security. An attack here, an attack there, I can predict where the next attack will be. Even if the military is using predictive AI, they will not disclose that because it's not the kind of AI you talk about. It keeps you ahead of your competitors. Now, there are other key emerging technologies. Blockchain, as has been discussed, IoT, that's Internet of Things, cloud computing, cybersecurity, robotics, and drones. I don't want to go too deep into them, but I will just pick on one of them, the idea of blockchain. When we talk of blockchain, people have said that blockchain improves the integrity of any process. So when you think of a process being possible to, susceptible to manipulations and, let me say, hacking, blockchain answers that question by saying that you will not have only one server. You will have a distributed ledger system where everybody is a server. For anything to be changed in that data system, it has to go through every server. So if I hack this server, I must hack this server, I must hack that server. Otherwise, it is secured. But it is energy consuming as well, unless we improve our own algorithm to make it less consuming and still highly secured. Next slide. So Nigeria can build a lot of things. I'm saying this because many times when we talk about technology, it looks like, okay, now we know what is possible. How do we get the people that will do it? Go to the north. Kaduna State, for example, there are many young Nigerians building drones. And I know the Air Force can attest to this because there are usually hackathons at Affidavits and so on. And you will be amazed about how much potentials are within the citizenry. Many of the softwares we see, locally or internationally, are powered by Nigerian software developers. We have the capacity. Even here in Nigeria with the federal government, we supported them in building a smart irrigation system that allows farmers to remotely control their irrigation on their soil farm or the temperature of their poultry and allow it to also automate itself based on the conditions on the ground. And this is to say that there are no scarcities of talent. There are just scarcity of trust for these talents. And I will emphasize again that digitalized systems may show inaccuracies, not because there were no inaccuracies before and they have introduced them, but because it is now clearer when it's digital. Next slide. So, when it comes to IoT, which is Internet of Things, that we can use to monitor infrastructure, there are so many opportunities. Let me give you just one example. Monitoring power in Nigeria. Today, power is improving. I can say that for myself because of where I live. But I want data about the power improvement across the country immediately. We don't have to put out a post and say, like it if you have power in your house. Every transformer can have a simple device that sends a signal once it is activated by the energy on the transformer. What that means is that government can be in one place and already know who has not had light for 10 days. So that way, when there is that information access, there will be accountability. Because it is very easy to say, oh, why is it that you installed the transformer somewhere and it has not been up and running? In a country like Nigeria, the citizens want the government to be fully aware, and Internet of Things is one answer to this. Also is the aspect of, location data. When governments execute projects, it is difficult enough to run a company. I know about that. As I'm in Abuja now, they've been calling me this one, that one, and I'm like, please, just carry on. Imagine running a country where you give people money and trust to initiate projects here and there. Location data tells us that we can geotag any solution that is being sent out, whether it is transformers or street lights or traffic lights, or even water infrastructure for constituency projects. Can we get a live feed about where it has been installed and which community? So this is talking about Internet of Things because the devices will send the data to us. And we're not always talking about internet when we say Internet of Things. SMS is still a form of communication. And there are many other alternatives to getting the data if you don't have internet and SMS. Next slide. Next slide. Now, at this point, when we deploy digitalization, it is impossible to fail because you have systems that check and can rebuild based on the processes applied. And we use that a lot in the banking sector, for example, when loans are given out. And they say to, they ask some questions and you answer that. And based on the information you gave them, they issue your loan. And if you default, the next time somebody has that same pattern of information, he or she will not be granted. So we learn, we improve, we continue to rise. It's difficult to cheat a system that is digitalized because it is always awake and watching, and so on. Next slide. Next slide. I was asked a question about payments, particularly in our internally displaced persons camps, or what the government calls cashless, cash transfer policies program to the people who are the weakest of the society. And of course, it is a very laudable initiative, but then can it be susceptible to abuses? If there are people who have been called for breaching the US pension scheme, whose system is immune? So, the recommendation is this: rather than give out cash, can we adopt a cashless system where it is tokens that are given to them? And I'll give you a very relatable example. When you apply to a bank for a loan, maybe you apply for 10 million naira loan, you tell them you want to use it to buy generator, air conditioning, or whatever, or furniture. The bank will issue the loan to you, but not give you the cash to spend it wherever you like. Rather, you will have to spend it at the designated outlets. For example, how much do you want to use for furniture? 1 million naira. Go and buy it from Moses T. Enterprise. They are also commercialized, and they are also partners with the bank. So the bank is not giving you the money, but giving you the token to get the funds, the supply. Same thing with people in the IDP camps that need money for, food, for school fees maybe, and for other things. The government can tokenize the support. So that way you are tracking who is spending what, and you don't have a case where somebody collects all of that money, keeps it somewhere, invests it, or give it to the terrorists to use. So digitalizing these systems might come with some eyebrows raised, that we don't have access to mobile devices. How do we collect tokens? Again, there are ways to circumvent that challenge. One of it is have an outlet, the way ATMs are. An outlet that people go, update their information, maybe by fingerprint, and say, I'm buying something from this person. Then the seller too goes there and says, okay, I have collected it, or I have given out the item. The same way ATMs work. If you don't have a mobile app on your phone for your bank, you can go to the ATM and use it. That way everybody will be forced to migrate to digital systems. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide again. I don't want to spend some more time. Okay. What this does is it ensures complete transparency. We know who is collecting the support. We know what they are using it for. And if we go by the application, the way Estonia has applied it, every citizen has an identity attached to your SIM card, attached to your transactions. There is no hiding. There is also the elimination of corruption. If I know I can't take the money for any other thing because it's in token form, then I will just leave it where it is. Then guaranteed delivery. You are sure it's getting to those. And this is not only for IDP camps. This is also for the case of supporting rural farmers with fertilizer, with seeds, ensuring it gets to them. Economic relationships, it builds that trust between government and the people because they know that whatever the government says is going to them will get to them, because without their digital identity, you can't take it from what belongs to them. And allows for real-time monitoring if you have used it for what you are going to use it for or not. Next slide. Next slide. I think when it comes to security, it is a key aspect of our socio-economic development, because if farmers don't feel safe, they won't go to the banks. If pipelines are vandalized, we won't have enough money to support the economy. And this means that the application of drones for surveillance is critical. But this is not new, because the government, the private sector have been trying to apply drones. The question is, when your drones collect data, how do you analyze the data? Even when you send helicopters, how do you make sense of the data? It is by running it through some AI algorithms that can detect. And I'll give you a very simple example. If crime is going to occur, it doesn't occur overnight. There is a gradual build-up of activity. If it's, for example, oil pipeline vandalization, There will first of all be attempts to converge, look at where the pipelines are, dig, maybe inspect the soil or be sure it's there before eventually digging. So that means if a drone flies across that particular area, territory, and notices a heap of sand or shovels where there were none before, it's clear that there might soon be another excavation. And if in 2 days' time, it discovers maybe buckets or something that might lead to further excavations, you don't need to wait until there's an attack or there's an excavation before you deploy resources. And for a country that has to manage resources, intelligence of what is likely to happen in the next 1 week, 2 weeks, would help the military to apportion or to allocate men to the field. Then also there's the aspect of monitoring infrastructure. There was a time we used to have pipeline vandalism, not pipeline now, towers, power lines, these masts, and also some times ago, the railways. Drones can help by inspecting. Now, if you talk about drones too much, the question will be who is going to fund it? Because drones are expensive. But then this is where private-public partnership has to come in. But again, it's the public sector that can provide a policy for that engagement. Because I know, again, that when it comes to drone, it's still a security area. Not everyone has license. So for this. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. When it comes to corruption, how can we use technology to detect corruption or to even reduce corruption? Is the idea of what I've always had in mind of what I call the mystery man, or let me say the undercover agent. Imagine if in this room we all have an application on our phone, a mobile app on our phone, that can assign to you a task and some responsibilities. And then maybe on that, I say to you, go and give the man in blue some money, tell him to help you with this assignment. Now, you've received the instruction, you go to him, he collects the money, he does the work for you. You can report on the app. Now, in this case, with evidence, what that means is that the next time somebody goes to him to offer some money, he's not sure if the app has assigned you or you are just a regular person. And that can happen across the country with several systems, not just public sector, even the private sector. Because like somebody says, if you don't give the bribe, they won't take the bribe. But then, the most important thing is the safety and the anonymity of these channels. And towards the end of my presentation, I will talk about a solution that is there for such. Evidence must be available through this application, whether voice evidence, location evidence, or video evidence. And this is one area technology can come in. And like we always say, Nigeria wants to have a country devoid of corruption. But do we trust the system of reporting? Or do we fear retaliation? As long as there is a system that is foolproof, that guarantees safety, you will find everybody being as truthful to the system as they can. Next slide. Next slide. How can we use AI to save lives? And this is a big question. When someone is in severe medical crisis and needs medical attention, first of all, there's the issue of traffic, if it were in Lagos, for example. If it were not in Lagos, there's an issue of addressing. How do we know where exactly this person is? How does the person even reach us? How do we know which hospitals are active or nearby? That is where many solutions come in. Number one is AI-powered routing. Sometimes you could get someone's location, but the Google map tells you go this way, but there's no road there. I can imagine that happening when it's fire service trying to rescue someone or an ambulance trying to help someone. Can we improve our addressing system? The answer is yes. And I have a solution on that. Smart pre-positioning. Can we predict where there will be traffic? Can we predict where there will be an issue? Where there's likely to be a fire outbreak or flood? And there are so many researchers that have worked on flood prediction and so on. With deployment of AI, we can quickly see where there will be problems and be preemptive rather than reactive. Next slide. So, fundamentally, digital transformation can change how our government works, improving our communication, making sure we're applying data in our decision making, helping to engage the citizens. This could be a chatbot or a system that gets data from them, helping with verification of people, whether it is their identity or their address, and so on. So, next slide. This is the solution I was talking about, which is called yard code. Now, this yard code is basically like postcode in the sense that for wherever we are, there is a code for your location. And it means that while it's possible to report your home address as number 20 something street, you can as well give someone your GPS coordinates. But that coordinate is not actually in the form of numbers, it's in the form of alphanumeric keys that look like postcode in UK. And with this, it's possible to know where you are. But it doesn't stop there. Because if you know where the person is, how do you route it? Google, for example, has the direction. But again, Google works on data it gets from people. So if not many people have traversed a particular route, Google will not have that data about how to get to you. So this particular solution also has what we call route recording that allows you personally to take your phone, drive or walk the path that leads to your house from a known landmark. So when you give somebody your yard code, in this case, you will give them your route code. It tells them exactly the path to take to get to you. Not only is this for location or locating people, it's used for marking where pipelines pass underground or marking where power lines traverse. So that if drones are being sent, they will be told the route to take. This is part of what the government needs, developed at the private sector level. Now, we need more solutions from the private sector. And there are several solutions in the area of healthcare, in the area of agri-tech, in the area of fintech. And so the government is the one providing this enabling environment for solutions like this to come out. But the question would be whether the government is going to then adopt this and test it. Because most of the time, like I said, the problem is not the absence of the technology, but the absence of trust for what is locally developed. Next slide. So we're coming to an end now. The challenges are there. Power supply, like somebody will say, how can we apply digitalized systems in the rural areas when there are no power supplies? But with time and as we grow, these solutions are already clearing away. Internet before would require your SIM card, would require maybe some wired communication. But now there is Starlink. Then there's also the government initiative, the federal government initiative, to have optic fiber across the country. If you come to my area where I live now, almost every house has a wire cable hanging, waiting for you to use it. And it's far cheaper than even Starlink. That's to tell you that government is proactive. But it can only continue if more and more people are educated enough and enlightened enough to use this. Imagine if all of those wires, those cables in front of our houses are not being used. Before you know it, it won't be maintained and it will collapse. But to allow people to use it, they too must be trained to know what to do with the internet. And like somebody was saying, how many people will pay for digital services? The answer is that businesses would pay and pay for their staff, just like they pay for insurance, because they know it's important. So as more businesses, private sector businesses come up that are aware of the importance of digital systems and digitalize themselves, there will be further funding to cater for the infrastructure government is trying to push across the country. Next slide. We should not wait for the perfect solution. We should start smart and we should start local. Whether we don't have electricity or not, there is solar. There is also the smart use of electricity that we must imbibe as a country. Even if you don't have access to the internet in the neighborhoods you want to apply your solutions, make it work offline. There are solutions that work offline and updates, synchronize when there is internet, and so on. But more importantly is the aspect of capacity. We must train more people, and I was impressed when I heard about the Nigerian government plan to train about 500,000 people. Because you train one person, you've trained almost like 5 more people looking up to the person. So we must train, we must partner with those that can train and engage. And I must not leave without saying that when it comes to partnering on training, we must hold those in the university very dearly. And that leads me to my next slide, which is about how other countries make use of the university system. I'm a product of KTP, that's Knowledge Transfer Program in the UK, where the government brings in a researcher, and that was me, brings in a company, and also brings in the university. So the university takes the person, the researcher, as a postdoctoral researcher, and they attach you to a company. Listen to the company's problems, listen to what they wish they could get, build that solution, and share the IP. In the US as well, they allow companies and research organizations to work together, and that has brought about many of the revolutionary solutions we see in the world, including the internet, GPS, voice recognition solutions, and so on. Those in the academia are ready and are waiting for government to say, this business, work with this person. Imagine government says, for digital revolution to go very fast, which is why we are here, to accelerate the digital revolution, Company A, work with University A in the area of agric. Company B, work with University B in the area of security. That way, researchers will have additional funding to push their efforts out. Next slide. Next slide. So in conclusion, the idea of artificial intelligence is to help the system, even when the best of ministers, the best of government functionaries leave office, to keep a system that has learned from how they practiced and live beyond their own tenure. When officers are transferred, we shouldn't have to look for the person that was managing this particular project if the system has learned and has access to all the data. When programs come to an end, how did it perform? What lessons did we learn? We can get all of that from the system. We have the laws, we have the talents, we have the vision, as this particular conference has shown, and there are proof of concepts within the country. What we need now is the infrastructure, or the brilliant use of this infrastructure, implementation, and the commitment to drive this growth. So for me, on behalf of those in the private sector, I can say the private sector is very ready. As a former lecturer at the University of Ibadan, I can say the academia is very ready. From this, we can see that the government is ready. So let's make this a shared mission. Thank you very much.
If you agree that was brilliant, please another round of applause for him. Thank you very much. Indeed, Nigeria has everything. The most brilliant minds in the world are Nigerians. Many thanks, Dr. Olusola Ayoola. Indeed, you did well with that presentation, and I'm sure the audience are thrilled by your presentation. I've asked him to wait behind because I understand that some of you may have questions. So you have stood for a long time. You may please take your seat briefly. So if you have questions, I'd like you to take just one or two. If everything is understood, then we can move on to the next item on the agenda. Do we have questions? All right. You did great. No questions. Well understood. Please, another round of applause for him as he goes back to his seat. Okay, we have one question. One question. Please, can we get the microphone to him? We'd like... And just to let you know that subsequently we'd have 2 panel sessions and 1 more presentation left to go. If you have questions, you could just put them down in a sheet of paper. Jotters were given to us at the start of this event, so to make things a little bit easy and snappy. So, of course, after each presentation and the panel sessions, we'll just pick the sheet of papers and read your questions. All right. Your name, your designation, and your question.
My name is Adebayo Daramola, so I'm representing the ICT Department of National Population Commission. So what I want to say is that census taking is evidence that in Nigeria we do data warehousing. But in data, you collect a lot of information from so many. However, what I'm concerned about is data warehousing is what census exercises. But data mining, which is what's extracting information. And I know that one of the aspects of our, what do we call that thing, is there's a particular column that is employment, because you mentioned job creation. That has to do with people having jobs. Now, if a person has a job, it's very likely that he has money coming to him for the effort that he is making. Now, is there a way that AI can be used to understand which jobs are needed, who has the job, and then connecting the person who requires a job to the person who has a job to give? So that, because I know that most of the time there are solutions. So to link the person who has the solution with the person who needs the solution. I think that's the basis of AI. So there is data warehousing, and then there is anyway, I think I've
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Your message has been passed.
Okay.
Response, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Would you like to take the DG's
Microphone.
question before you respond to both at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, please help me get a mic to the DG.
So that I'll just answer.
Well, mine is, I think, question and comments. We want to appreciate you for the wonderful presentation you've made. And congratulate Nigeria for having you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, if you look at this crowd here, we have a mixture of states and local governments.
Yes.
How can we leverage artificial intelligence to improve the linkage between our work at the federal, improve the states, and improve the local governments? I don't know whether you heard when the president said, if you have issues with funding, go to your state governors and local government, don't ask me. How do we take the advantage of artificial intelligence to improve engagement and security in states and local governments? The third question is, I don't know if you are aware of the policies that Turkish government put in place before adopting the use of artificial intelligence in Turkey. So how safe is it? And how can we be safe in that space? Somebody told me that he went for a program and the instructor directed them or advised them to use ChatGPT and Gemini and others. And after 1 week, he just opened his phone and Gemini said, you can review some of these discussions that you had using this phone. Some of them personal. Some of them dangerous for somebody else to hear or see. How safe can we be in that space? In Morocco, the Gen Z arrest is linked to a leaked AI transmitted message where the wife of the king was seen in Giorgio Armani shop, shopping, and somebody sent a message somewhere. So while there are advantages in the use of artificial intelligence in terms of speed, connectivity, and others, how safe are we? And how can we ensure that we're safe as we travel on that space? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm told that because of time, so we can only take these two questions. To the question that the DG has asked, how safe are we when we apply AI? The answer to safety, whether it is data safety or account safety, so you are sure somebody else is not hacking into your account, lies with the idea of cybersecurity. And that is why two things. We must continuously improve our expertise in the area of cybersecurity, as well as our love to apply AI in everything we do. But the cybersecurity we're talking about rests on those who own the data, those who keep the data. What are their policies? What are their loopholes? So that means that, again, it comes to the point of research. We need people also researching on what the policies, the security policies of these tech giants are when it comes to data that we produce. Because we've talked about data sovereignty. If you are going to work on our data, follow our policies, house it within our country. If you cannot house it within our country, let us encrypt it in manners that we too appreciate and trust. And then we can jointly review how it's secured. But we must also enlighten the public that when it comes to the use of AI, there is that responsible use. We must make sure that we know that whatever we are divulging to AI, AI has the right to use it to learn, which of course means that you are telling it about yourself to train it. But then I've noticed that some of these AI platforms allow you to work in incognito mode. That means that it will not record whatever you are conversing with it. Just like you have your browser's incognito mode. For example, ChatGPT, you can switch to incognito mode. So whatever you discuss with it, it does not store it in its record. Then that is something we can also further investigate to be sure it is truly not stored and not susceptible. Then the question of how AI can help federal government and state government and local government to harmonize their efforts and so that the citizens can get further information about what is going on. That is where, for example, when it comes to meetings that we have, AI can help to summarize these meetings. At the National AI Strategy Workshop that the Minister of Communications put together, at every breakout room session where we were deliberating on what the policy should be, there was a microphone recording every conversation and then converting it to text, and then developing a kind of fine-tuned large language model that can answer questions about what did they discuss in that meeting. So what this means is you can also, there's multimodal data, you can feed it with voice, you can feed it with data sheets, what's something like what was allocated to this local government, what did they do with it? And if we ask a question to the AI system and it can't answer, maybe you ask it, what's my local government doing on roads? And it cannot answer, that should send a signal back to the server that there is no information about this particular local government on roads, which should trigger an alert to whoever is responsible that people are asking about this question, provide answer within 7 days, or we will escalate this to the supervisory agency. So I think the owner of the server is still the one that will coordinate this. And that's why I recommend we have our own localized AI server, not just foreign ones, that we can say, use this if you want to get information about government. Then the first question about data mining, you are correct to say that the population census allows us to collect data from citizens. But then the question will be, how much do we trust some of the data? Should I ask someone if he is employed? And this is what the former Estonian Prime Minister would say. Why should I ask you if you are employed if I have a system of finding out which company has employed who and who is receiving salary from where? So we can support the system of census by also collecting further data from every other agency, whether it is from the Nigerian banks, whether it's from the other sectors anyway, the ones that check who has been employed, tax, FIRS, and the others. So that way, I don't need to trust what you tell the field officer when I can see from your record that you are employed. That way, even our GDP calculation can be perfect because people are working in ways that are not being recorded at the census level. So I think data mining would come when we harmonize all of the data and confirm which is authentic and which can be ignored. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can see me personally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With another round of applause for Dr. Olusola Ayoola. Very impressive presentation and, of course, great response to the questions. Like you already mentioned, if you have more questions, you can meet him personally. Also to let you know that we have other sessions, so we're still going to take questions. Because of time, we cannot take more than the 2 that we already did. I sincerely apologize. Thank you so much. So many thanks once again to Dr. Ayoola for that presentation. We move on now, but before we do, I'll quickly make a few recognitions. And we have joining us for this event, Dr. Felix Ale, the Director, Media and Corporate Communications at the National Space Research and Development Agency, NASDA. Also with him is Hajia Sadatu Sani Aminu, Director Administration at NASDA, and Engineer Dr. Chichebe Akachukwu, Director, Ground Station, NASDA. They are here to represent the DG. We sincerely appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so time to move quickly, but just a quick reminder, while Dr. Ayoola was talking, he kept mentioning in the area I live, in the area I live. Do we have people who live in the MNK axis here? When I say MNK, I mean Maraba, Nyanya, Karu axis. Oh, you've not heard of MNK before? Okay, that's the polished way to call it. All right, so for those who live in that axis, I think they should tell us whether light is stable or not, and if they are enjoying the kind of facilities Dr. Ayoola was talking